Thank you so much. Thanks for being a good sport. All right, I'm Laura Ingraham. This is Ingraham Angle from Washington tonight. Thanks so much for being with us. Despicable Joe. That's the focus of tonight's angle. All right, just when you think the White House couldn't be more shameless, they surprise you and take shamelessness to the next level. Now, lest you think that everything in politics is just a reaction to Donald Trump, you're wrong. Let's start tonight back in 2008, when Republicans saw the political power of the then global warming crowd, and they saw it growing. So supporting Obama and Biden against McCain and Palin. Well, Sarah Palin revealed who Biden really was by goading him.
The chant is drill, baby, drill. And that's what we hear all across this country in our rallies, because people are so hungry for those domestic sources of energy to be tapped into.
And in response, Biden did what Biden still does. He deflected, and then he just lied.
John McCain has voted 20 times against funding alternative energy sources and thinks, I guess, the only answer is drill, drill, drill. But it will take 10 years for one drop of oil to come out of any of the wells that are going to begun to be drilled.
Okay, think about how stupid his point was. So we shouldn't have drilled because more drilling doesn't deliver oil, what, overnight? Well, notice the Democrats don't have that same concern about the long timelines for solar and wind. No concern there. There's no infrastructure required there. Then, after 8 years of Obama's onerous energy regs, after he signed the disastrous Paris Accords, the Democrats hit a major roadblock with the election of Donald Trump.
For over 40 years, America was vulnerable to foreign regimes that used energy as an economic weapon. Americans' quality of life was diminished by the idea that energy resources were too scarce to support our people. The truth is that we have near limitless supplies of energy in our country. Powered by new innovation and technology, we are now on the cusp of a true energy revolution.
And 18 months later, just as he pledged, the U.S. exported more oil than we imported. That was for the first time in 70-plus years. So think about this. In other words, Trump achieved what Richard Nixon had promised, 40 years earlier? Presidents going back that far. It's astonishing. We had energy independence. The left and Democrats were miserable, though. Gasoline for cars was cheap, heating oil was reasonable, and we had a glut of natural gas. America was strong and secure because we didn't just have energy independence, we had energy dominance.
We have nearly 100 years' worth of natural gas and more than 250 years' worth of clean, beautiful coal. We are a top producer of petroleum and the #1 producer of natural gas. We have so much more than we ever thought possible. We are really in the driving seat. And you know what? We don't want to let other countries take away our sovereignty and tell us what to do and how to do it.
And 5 years later, with Trump gone, that's exactly what's happening. Other countries are controlling our destiny, our economy, because Joe Biden's green goblins have sabotaged our energy independence. So now OPEC is in the driver's seat. Oh, along with Russia, of course. Thank you very much, Joe. Joe Biden is literally begging some of the most despotic regimes around to pump more oil. Again, let's remember the steps that got us here. Biden's own administration took out an early hit on the oil and gas industry, driving down production, which, of course, drove up energy costs. Then they started funding a proxy war against Russia and launched meaningless sanctions against Russian oil, which only further stoked energy prices. And now, Biden and company, they're fine with high gas prices. In fact, they want high gas prices. But they knew the issue was hurting them politically. So they recklessly tapped the strategic petroleum reserves, which did artificially drop the price of gas. Well, that ticked off the Saudis and OPEC and Russia, so they simply responded by saying, okay, Joe, two can play at that market manipulation game. We're going to cut our production by 2 million barrels per day. In other words, everything Biden did backfired, and we're left holding the bag. His oil play will go down as one of the most costly, most craven, and most despicable political maneuvers in recent American history. And now, Biden and company, they're stuck between a rock and a hard place. Americans are about to get hammered, even worse than before, and recession is now a certainty. But it's not Biden's fault. Of course not. After all, he bragged repeatedly during the campaign of all the great relationships he had forged with foreign leaders around the world.
Just due to U.S. relations with Saudi Arabia.
And it's a short-sighted decision. It is its own purported self-interest that OPEC Plus made the decision upon, and so we see it as a mistake on this particular decision.
Wow, she's kidding us. You mean nations act in their own self-interest? Wow, this is actually a revelation to these people. Do they not remember what other countries did during COVID? Remember they hoarded their own PPE? But before you panic, because things look really bad, let's face it, just remember Biden has an energy savant in place at the Department of Transportation.
Right, we're in a transition, and transitions are complicated. We need to manage this transition in a smart way, but we can't afford to drag our feet, and there's certainly nothing to be gained by trying to stop this progress.
This is progress. Now, Boy Wonder's trying to south bend your thinking on what will be a desperately sad time for so many Americans who live paycheck to paycheck. None of these people care about your economic pain, none of them. They're fine with you having a lower standard of living because to them it's all collateral damage. It's all collateral damage along the road to the green nirvana. They will not change their policy. This is their policy. But the most loathsome action of all is the fact that they're playing games with our national security because they're sucking down our oil reserves that are supposed to be there for true emergencies. Now look at this chart. This is where Biden has taken us, to the brink. This is beyond dangerous. And there's no end in sight to what they're going to try to do to claw back public support.
Use all of the tools at our disposal to have adequate supply of energy globally. Those actions, including our historic use of the Strategic Petroleum Reserve to release 1 million barrels of the day into the market, has had an impact. Oil prices are down significantly from where they were earlier in the summer, and as a result, gas prices are down as well.
Liars! Prices are going up. The American people are going to suffer, and there's no wonder that 70% of them now say the next generation won't have the same quality of life that they had. But you can feel it, right? Americans are increasingly pessimistic, and the Democrats just do not care. They only pretend to, and then they take dangerous steps like the SPR release. And they only do that around election time. But after the election, if they somehow manage, a world of pain, and that's the angle.